With many already living far longer than they expected, Jonathan Ainsley, the founder of Invest in You and creator of the Flourishing Longevity Program, has developed the shifting mindsets from fear and frailty to opportunity and promise. It's a strategy of combating ageism at the individual level by enlightening and inspiring. Jonathan will also be the keynote speaker for the Florida Council on Aging's annual conference in August of 2024. Welcome, Jonathan. Now, this is a fascinating subject. You just mentioned to me that more people this year are turning 65. Is that right?
In the United States, yes. 2024, the greatest number of people turning 65 than ever before.
So we come up with that word ageism. Now, I think that's kind of batted around, and what exactly does your workshop, your program do to really combat that idea of ageism and getting older?
Well, the work we've done has really evolved from my work as a consultant and a coach at Merrill Lynch for 7 years, and the whole idea of looking after clients and the way advisors work with them. And in talking to clients about how they plan clients for their retirement and this increased longevity that we're seeing, the general response was from the clients, when they plan them to 95 or 100, I don't want that to be me. I don't want to be old and decrepit. And I had the personal experience myself. I think most of us, we don't have to look very far in today's world to see those around us living far longer than they expected. And so, for example, my grandmother spent 30 years promising me pretty much that each year would be her last because she was too old and frail to go on, and made it to just shy of 101. So the more I heard this in my travels, I thought, you know, this is obviously a big deal. We should be looking more at it. So initially I got teams to bring in clients and created this workshop in really having a conversation about longevity. And from there it sort of evolved into a flourishing focus, because most people, you know, getting into their 90s or hundreds today, they didn't do it intentionally. They didn't set out saying, right, I'm going to get to this place. But when you start looking at it, there's a lot of work going on in the gerontology longevity field. But again, looking beyond the idea of sort of fear and frailty, what becomes possible when you change your outlook, and then looking at the ageism, there's a lot of work sort of societally and within communities focused on combating ageism. But I'm hearing again in my travels, those most guilty of ageism are we as individuals ourselves, and helping us reset our mindsets to more opportunity and promise. As one participant said, you're unlocking my bigger view on life.
And so there comes that word flourishing, because sometimes we think, oh, I'm just getting old or getting older, that concept, but you don't have that sort of bright picture of a flourishing life for, you know, as you said with your mother for 30 years, we really are living older and longer. And what are we going to do with our lives? How do we make it flourishing? So you're kind of putting together a workshop that will encourage this? Is that what it's all about?
Yes, I've been working on that for the last 6 years. So I did the first workshop 6 years ago, and really it's now getting that story out. So being able to be that keynote speaker for the Florida Council on Aging, bringing this sort of more powerful message, again, empowering the individual. You know, as part of my positioning is that we are, as individuals, we are infinite beings handicapped by our limiting beliefs. And we don't know what we don't know. So when you start opening up this bigger space, rather than sort of 65 plus, and there's this sort of, hey, I'm going to go retire, and then what? Versus, well, okay, what happens if you've got 30 or 40 years ahead of you? What is really possible when you start looking at it in those terms? And what do you need to do to get there?
Because
healthily.
I think you're right. I think sometimes, maybe I want to say in the old days when you had 65 or 70, well, you didn't really think too much further into the future. And as you mentioned, thanks to, you know, medical advancements, you know, nutritional advancements, we are living longer, and we want to make that a flourishing longevity.
That's true. And again, when you lean into sort of some of the data points, Ken Dykewald at AgeWave, their work, pre-lockdown, 64 million retirees in the United States, averaging 47 hours TV a week. So that's virtually 7 hours a day. So as I say, sort of mindless it's just a default setting. But then also healthcare expenditure. We're number 1 in the world on healthcare expenditure per capita, but we're number 68 in health span. So 12.4 years of chronic illness is the average here, and most people are unaware of this. So when you start, okay, what's your number going to be? And what are you doing to avoid this? How can you create that more flourishing focus?
And it's great information. Thanks so much. And we do want to thank Jonathan for walking us through the innovation of flourishing longevity and how members of our community can get involved in the inspiration and energy that comes with a flourishing longevity focus. To learn more about it, visit longevityplanning.me. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Carol.